Is there somebody in the hospital that was around your age as well, going through what you were going through?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yeah. There was a boy who was the same age as me right beside, and unfortunately he didn't make it. We didn't actually get a chance to talk directly, but our families were, together going through the same kind of struggles and working together as we, side by side, you're going through the same transplant, same journey. He was literally right beside me, and unfortunately he passed away after I went home. He actually went to the ICU and passed away there. It's hard to see. That's one thing that I love about having cancer, and hate about having cancer, because I've gotten to meet so many amazing people and met so many incredibly strong children like I was talking about, and so many amazing opportunities to share my story and, use that to my advantage. But I've also seen so much struggles and seen all the children who don't make it and what their families have to go through, and it's just it's not fair for a parent to have to lose a child, especially when they're only, this boy was 16 years old, but I've seen people who were 5 or 6 years old pass away, and it's not fair for them.
Let's look back at when you were finished your treatments but going through isolation. You mentioned that. What does that mean, and what did you do during that time of isolation?
So there's kind of two types of isolation that I went through. The first one is in the hospital. So right after you, from right when you get the transplant until they call it when you engraft, you have to stay in hospital in isolation. So what that means is you're in a special room that filters the air. It's not much bigger than a teeny sized little bedroom, probably no bigger than the little stage that we're sitting on. But you have to stay in there and you're not allowed to leave. And it's just because your immune system, when you get the transplant, your immune system is basically nothing. You have to start from square one again, just from when you were a baby. And so you have no immune system whatsoever. And as they get the new stem cells in there, they start growing and producing the new immune system, but until you engraft, which is basically means that the cells are in there, they're working. So until that point, you have to stay in this small little room I was in there for 18 days. So, I mean, it's definitely hard to explain kind of what you go through when you're stuck in a room for 18 days. It's pretty frustrating. I remember asking one of my doctors, I said, my blood counts are the same as they were 6 months ago. Why am I stuck in this room? And she said, because after you get the transplant, since they're new baby cells, they've never encountered diseases and stuff like that before, so they have to keep you safe and keep you in that small room. So even though my number of counts were the same and I had the same amount of those little blood cells, they weren't as strong as they used to be. So I've had to actually get all new vaccinations again since my immune system was completely wiped out. So I've had, I'm not sure, 20 in the past 6 months, because I've had to start right from when I was a baby until now. So
when you came out of the hospital, did you still remain in isolation at your home for a while?
Yeah, so for 6 months, you're not allowed to leave without a mask, leave the home without a mask. If you go to the hospital or anything like that, you gotta wear a mask. And they make a few little exceptions, like they let me go to the mall early in the morning on a school day or something like that, but I still had to wear a mask for that. I was only allowed to have a few visitors, and pretty boring time. I was really lucky that my parents actually got me a new puppy, so I had someone to play with during that time. But yeah, it was a struggle to get through, but now that I'm through it, I'm doing really well.
Good. What else kept you positive at that time when you were going through that isolation, when you had not much to do but think about things? What else kept you positive? I
think definitely my friends. I had a really nice group of girls from Holy Cross that definitely tried to include me as much as they can in their, whenever they would go out for dinner with their friends and stuff, they would always maybe come over and hang outside for a couple, half an hour or so before they went. And, they definitely tried to include me as much as they could, even though I wasn't able to, go to dinner with them and do all that kind of stuff. I actually had to stay on a low bacteria diet after, so I wasn't allowed to eat at any restaurants, and I had to eat special foods, and we had to clean everything super well, and there was certain foods that I wasn't allowed to eat. So was a bit of a struggle.
What weren't you allowed to eat?
So I wasn't allowed to eat things like raw eggs. So all my meat had to be cooked completely well. All the food had to be washed super well. All the fruit had to be soaked and then rinsed and then soaked and then rinsed. So much extra cleaning and stuff just to make sure that there wasn't anything that, you know, could give me a little bit of food poisoning, because if I had got that, I wouldn't have been able to fight it off.
Mackenzie, what was your favorite food then? What turned out to be your very favorite food?
Well, I was only allowed to eat foods from that were made from a factory. So I wasn't allowed to eat any like meats that are cut in the grocery store or anything like that, just because of the different rules. So I would say like microwave pizzas were my go-to thing, because they were just easy to eat and yummy.
How did you feel for the very first time when you left the hospital?
Well, when we got to go home from the hospital in Toronto, it was amazing. I mean, when you're living somewhere for so long, you want to get out. And unfortunately, when I was there, it was winter, so I couldn't just go and hang out outside like a lot of the kids. They have a nice little park to sit in, so a lot of the kids go out there just for some fresh air. But I couldn't do that. It was much too cold. So to be able to leave the hospital and kind of go and do normal things was it was amazing to be able to get out of there, just because, you know, when I was sitting in my hospital bed, I can remember, you know, just wanting to get home for Christmas. Because when I was at the hospital, it was November that I got my transplant, and all the volunteers said, let's put up decorations for Christmas. It's coming up, do you want to put up decorations? And I was like, no, I don't want to, because I was so set in stone that I wanted to get home for Christmas, and I actually got to go home on December 18th. So I was super excited just to, you know, be out of the house, because, you know, on December 1st or December 2nd, I remember being in the isolation room and just thinking, how the heck am I going to do this? Like, I was so weak, couldn't get out of bed, and just struggling to get through each day. And I just remember being so, I don't know what the word is, but just being so disappointed and like so sad that I was thinking ahead and being like, how the heck am I going to manage to get home and work my way out of this? Because, you know, you're in such a struggle at the time. But I, you know, managed to get through and was able to go home, and I was so happy to be home, and it was just a wonderful experience. I got to go home and surprise my best friend at her door, and it was just a wonderful experience. She was so excited, and yeah, it was just amazing to be able to get home. And, you know, it's a step in the journey. You know that you're one step closer to being finished and being cancer-free. So,
Mackenzie, do you think about cancer every day now?
I mean, it's hard not to. I try not to think about it. Obviously, I still see it. So many of the children that I spoke about are still fighting. So many, I mean, it's everywhere, right? Everyone has at least someone that they know, their neighbor, their grandma, their uncle, their dad, their mom. Everyone knows at least someone who has had to deal with it. And, you know, I definitely think about all those people. For me, sometimes, you know, it's hard to, when I'm tired or when I, you know, get a bruise, I'm sort of like, oh gosh, does this mean something? And it's hard not to worry about that. But you just have to try and stay positive and know that, you know, I'm cancer-free and I am doing so well and I can just live my life. So,
I'm looking at your foot and I notice there's a cast
yes,
on your foot.
I broke my foot.
And how did you do that?
So when I was playing soccer, I just hit the ball kind of weird and ended up, I went to the ER and ended up breaking it. And that's probably from a side effect from all the chemo. So when you get chemotherapy, your bone density is reduced quite a bit. So that's most likely, it probably wouldn't have broke so easily had I not had the chemo. But yeah, unfortunately, I'm sort of left with this now.
So you're trying to get your life back together after being so ill and going through what's happened to you. What else do you do that you are now starting with over again besides sports?
I'm trying to use my story to inspire people and kind of take the negative things and turn them into positive. And if I can inspire someone to, you know, donate money or donate blood or anything like that and end up saving a life from just me telling my story, you know, it's something that I'm definitely super happy to do. And I want everyone else to know that's fighting that you can get through this.
Are you thinking about a career somewhere along the line that can enhance what you're already doing?
Yeah, I've sort of kind of been interested in working somewhere in the hospital, whether it be nursing or something like that, but I definitely think that, you know, those caretakers have definitely impacted my story when I was at the hospital, and you build a relationship with them. So I think that it would be really cool to be able to, you know, in the future work in the hospital and tell other children, hey, I've been there, like I know what you're going through, and to be able to support them in that way. And yeah, so I'm kind of interested in going to work in some kind of field like that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you, Mackenzie.
You too.
So next up, we have someone from the Canadian Cancer Society, the fundraising coordinator, who will be talking a little bit about the event they're holding in order to raise funds for childhood cancer research.